Superstars, it's Danny here with a planetary service announcement for all of us. So I have noticed that when there's conversation around larger narratives and unfoldings, larger stories of collusion, of different entities and organizations and governments and interests working together, a lot of the times the pushback I will hear from people who have done absolutely no research into this whatsoever is, I find that type of coordination hard to believe. I find the extent of that coordination really hard to believe. And then they think that they have posed a valid argument that shuts down the actual well-researched information in question. Here's the thing. The limits of your imagination combined with the limits of your own research and knowingness do not count as a valid invalidation of someone else's perspective or a valid invalidation of real deal instances of collusion, of long-term collusion, of widespread collusion, right? The limits of your own imagination do not translate into debunking, right? That's not legitimate debunking. That's you projecting your own ignorance and your own contraction onto stories that offend your sensibilities, or stories that you don't yet have the capacity to wrap your mind around, or stories that you haven't bothered to research, to educate yourself, to attempt to wrap your mind around, right? So no longer, not that we ever did accept this, but be clear, like the limits of your imagination and your ignorance are your own, and don't stand up to research that offends said ignorance. Similarly, there's this phrase, there's no evidence for that. And I hear it used a lot when people have done no research to find evidence that actually exists. So your denial also doesn't discount legitimate evidence that you haven't found, that you haven't researched, or that your fake mainstream news is telling you doesn't exist, right? That also doesn't count. The only thing that counts is if we actually scour, we do a record search, we do actual research, we call the entities involved, and then we come up with zero evidence. Only then can we honestly and integrally say there is no evidence. But I hear this phrase being tossed around so willy-nilly when it's just people going, la, 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 la. I don't want to know anything about that. And, I was having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine over dinner, and she was talking about how, a friend of hers had sort of red-pilled her a couple years ago, and she was waking up to all these things, but she really hit the wall around Pizzagate. And I've also had this experience with friends in my life who will tolerate a lot of my perspectives and angles on global events, but when it comes to Pizzagate, they're like, no, I can't go there. And again, it's like the limits of your comfort zone, the limits of your willingness to look at real deal shadows that are disgusting and uncomfortable do not discount their reality. Do not discount the vast buttloads of evidence that exist that show us that this stuff is really happening. And the denial that comes from this unwillingness to look at it, this unwillingness to face shadows, to expand our comfort zone around them, is what allows these horrors to continue, to perpetuate. And as I was having this conversation with my girlfriend, she's like, there's no evidence for that. And I'm like, of course there is. There's a ton of evidence. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I have independent journalist friends who have done valuable research about this. I have seen the police drawings of the Podesta brothers, or the email being passed and forth under the PSA code that has been completely warped in an attempt to make this thing seem like crazy conspiracy theorist disinformation. Like, I've seen the evidence. So to say it doesn't exist is not true. And then, so I presented this to her, and, you know, not in a forceful way, but just like, no, there's actually plenty of evidence. You just haven't looked for it. So it's not, you know, it's like me, I've never been to Russia, so I say that Russia doesn't exist. Probably not the best example given what's going on. I have not yet been to Alaska, so it's like me saying Alaska doesn't exist. No, it doesn't work like that. Like, the world isn't that narcissistic that the limits of our own experience or our own unwillingness or our own contractions translate to this is how the world is. That doesn't work. So I was explaining this to my friend. I'm like, no, there's plenty of evidence. And she's like, well, I haven't seen it, so it's not real to me. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work. Like, you could say I'm not willing to look at it, so I'm going to stay in the I don't know category. And I'm just so excited for humanity to cozy up and really start strengthening their I don't know muscles, because I don't know is completely fair. I'm not interested. I haven't looked into it, so I don't know, is way more intellectually honest than that's conspiracy theory or there's no evidence for that. That shit doesn't lie. It doesn't fly, right? That shit doesn't fly at all. So when my friend said this to me, well, I haven't seen it, so it's not real to me. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work. Like, that denial is what's allowing this to perpetuate. So that's fine if that's your stance, free will rocks, but just know that this la 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 la, I am not willing to look at it so it doesn't exist thing is fantasy fairy tale fluff. That is why we are in the situation that we are in. And again, totally fair game if we're not aligned, but then let's be honest about it and say, I haven't seen the evidence for myself and I'm not comfortable looking for it. So I'm just going to stick in the I don't know land. And the more of us who go from holding these strong opinions about shit we don't know about and just shift into the I don't know category, the more honest our culture gets to be. And a lot of healing is going to come from that simple shift. Like, not everyone is going to go doing this kind of research and exposing themselves to these things. Okay, fair enough. But when we're in that camp, then let's be honest about it and just stick with the I haven't seen it for myself and I don't know, so I'm going to withhold having any opinion on this. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for remembering that every word matters, that you are omniscopic amazingness. And before I wish us a rockin' day, thank you for heading over to my locals page, dannycats.locals.com. Join me there. You can sign up as a free supporter. You can sign up as a paid supporter. Even better, and glean all the bonuses. Regardless, it's where I'm now posting all my videos, all my new writings, archives, backstories, special conversations, Q&As, live streams, and it's where you get to engage more deeply with our community of badasses. All right, thanks for paying attention. Thanks for remembering that every word matters and that you are omniscopic amazingness. Have a rockin' day. Mwah.